Well, I think it is a good thing. It's a brave thing, I think, in current circumstances. I think the rest of us have got no idea what the Ukrainians are going through. So I think they'll welcome the fact that he's gone there and showed that level of personal commitment. And I think they'll also welcome whatever it is he can offer them by way of extra weapons and money and intelligence support and all the other things which are helping them resist this amazing act of aggression.
It's a lot of people might look at that though and say, look, you're just actually putting Vladimir Zelenskyy in actually more danger, because clearly if the Russians found out where he is, then they may well want to try and send the missiles there.
Well, I'm just personally amazed he's still around, President Zelenskyy, because one of the things you'd have thought the Russians would be dearly keen to do is to find a way of making sure he's not around. So I think you never quite know with things like this whether or not the British intelligence services and the Russian intelligence services will have, somehow had a quiet word that you just let this happen, because, I think assassinating foreign leaders sets a bad precedent. It's not normally done, if I can put it that way. So I think the symbolism of it's important, but as I said, the actual practical help they really need is the key thing. And I think the British diplomacy is actually having quite a good week, really, with talking to the Germans and keeping in close touch with other allies about how you can step up the support to Ukraine.
You think perhaps he could take some munitions with him on his way as soon as he managed to find safe passage for that. But look, this is the thing, right? It seems a bit of I don't really understand why I know you're saying that it's a good thing and everything, but why did he feel it necessary to go? Wouldn't you have thought it would be better for them to negotiate via Zoom or the other forms instead of him putting himself in such a dangerous position? It just put strain on the Ukrainian forces.
Well, I think it does, but I think one of the top EU leaders was there the other day. The Polish Prime Minister's been. There is, I think there is value, to be honest, in this sort of personal diplomacy. It may be, you sound a little bit old-fashioned in the days of Zoom and so on, but there's nothing like if someone's in a difficult situation, physically going there to show that you're on their side. I think it's one thing just watching on Zoom all the world leaders saying this and that. It's another thing for them to show the commitment. So I don't think this should be put off as I don't think I'd be inclined to play this off as some sort of stunt, even though a lot of people will think, oh, well, it's just another sort of PR opportunity. These things do matter, but what matters much more is whether or not we can help the Ukrainians, and the Americans and everyone else can help the Ukrainians stop this insane war. And I think you see, one of the things people don't really understand, I think, about all this is that the Russians have you remember Hitler had this idea of a 1,000-year Reich. Well, the Russians seem to have a new idea of creating a Eurasian space, as they call it, from Vladivostok to Lisbon. And there are various obstacles in the way of this, and the immediate obstacle is Ukraine. But the major, major obstacles are the ghastly Anglo-Saxons, Germans, Brits, and Americans. And so we are, in the way the Russians see this, very much in the front line of opposing them. And I think the fact that he is there will no doubt reinforce that to some extent.
So, as a former ambassador yourself, how do you think that Putin will view this, seeing Boris Johnson actually in Ukraine and discussing this?
Well, he'll be pretty annoyed, but I think he's got plenty of other things to be pretty annoyed about at the moment, not least the, seems pretty catastrophic performance of his own army and the huge number of dead bodies which are piling up, Russian soldiers which are piling up in Ukraine, which apparently they don't want back in Russia. The stress on the Russian leadership now must be very considerable, because almost nothing is going right. We're one of the lead countries in helping get them thrown off the Human Rights Council. That in itself, doesn't matter very much, but the symbolism, it's hard to stress this enough, the symbolism of a permanent member of the Security Council being thrown off a UN body by a pretty clear, strong majority of countries, and lots of Russia's supposed friends abstaining and just looking the other way, is really, really embarrassing to Moscow. And I think there's almost nothing that's going well for them at the moment.
But actually looking at it, so I think it was 98 or something like that, around about the 90s, that voted against keeping them on the council. But quite a lot of people, there was still over 20 countries, I think it was over 20, that sort of voted in favour of them staying on. What do you think their reasoning would be?
Well, if you actually look at the list of countries who voted, I mean, it's just, I can put it this way, it's a bit of a rogues gallery of a lot of countries who in one way or the other have pretty undemocratic systems and or traditionally have close links to Moscow. And Russia will have said to all of them. I mean, Russia said to anyone who abstains, never mind who votes for this resolution, the countries that abstain, that'll be treated as an unfriendly act. This is very strong language from Moscow. And I think India abstained, and this is a powerful moment for Russia, to be losing India in that way. So there's other countries, the countries in Central Asia, for example, they really just depend on Russian oil and Russian energy, and Russia will have said, listen, fall into line on this one. So some of the countries you can easily explain, but I think the main thing is that so many countries who Russia might have hoped for some sort of support from just abstained, which fundamentally meant that the resolution was going to pass, and that was very damaging for Moscow.
Well, listen, Charles, thank you so much for your thoughts. That's Charles Crawford. He's a former UK ambassador to Poland, Serbia and Bosnia.